remain galvanized. Your supporters remain galvanized. Your voters remain excited about elections in 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Mangongera Gibbs. Ye kuna manje silo mnumzana usibanjana ose-DRC. Sibanjana kunjani kuna ngapho? Ye sibanjani ungabuka ngone DRC khona?
Uselubumbashi baba.
Hawu kunjani lubumbashi khona?
Kuyagandelela indawo lokuphatha omuhle kakhulu esangake ngayifika nje ngathi mazweni eAfrika singahambani.
Ye udaba suluzwile osekudwini namhlanje ungathini baba?
Nasi indaba baba ngiyayibona ke kodwa ke into khona ukuthi usengakwazi yona kuqala ukuthi abantu beZANU-PF inhlonipho ebantwini abalayo. Lokho ukuthi ngoba sibone ngaye umama uMjulu isithethisela uba unkomo. So ukuthi nasengezwa njalo umuhlungu namhlanje hathi wena asento engasemangalisa le ukuthi uzwe ubuhlungu. Kodwa ke eqinisweni ngikhona lapha ubaba uMgari njengomuntu ohlakaniphileyo usehlukanisile imbambo nomgogodla phakathi ukwayo uZANU-PF nokudabuka kwayo abasekela uMnangagwa nabasekela uMaNdlovu. Kunjalo ke ngibona ngathi khona ubone ukuthi kuna akuna opposition estrong eZimbabwe njalo abantu abalamalo ukuthi khona bengalida so asidabuka uZANU-PF yakhe phakathi ukuthi abantu bangikhathele yikho lapho ke okuzatholakala khona i-second president ngemva kwakhe uMgabe phakathi kukaMnangagwa noMaNdlovu. Kodwa ngithi uMaNdlovu ngoba abantu bangathi bayamlandela uMnangagwa sesaba khona ukuqala senza khona ngesikhathi sesifuna ukuthi ithi labafowethu labasiyayo labantwana babo babakazi abayi babasonjayo baba sebesithile. So ke angibona ukuthi uMnangagwa abantu bazamxolela lapho baba.
Ye kube sokubuya ke okukhetho lapho ukuthi MDC ayifuna ukungena kuma by elections la ungathini?
UTsangirai baba usesithengile wasithenga kudala nxa ukuthi singabantu abakhaliphileyo anto bathi khona nxa ungumuntu vele inkozi ikhetha khona phana emaceleni akiyo. uTsangirai unesibaya esikhulu NDC sokuthi ufanele ekhethe intombi phakathi kwabantu bakhabaziyo njengomuntu besikhokhela kodwa wakhetha ngokuthi azise okwakuqala esihlamba ligama lakhe wakhetha ukuyathatha umtaka Josepha lwane simaziyo owezalo ungani kuye ku-MDC abafazi babengekho kathesi sikhuluma senze uhlala endlini yezalo. Uyabona ikathesi uWelshman Ncube watemtshela ukuthi khona nxa uyi-opposition election ungakhethi siyala ulokhu oppose ukwenzela ukuthi abantu bebone ukuthi khona usebenza nabo walala konke lokhu. Kathesi sekune-renewal eyalayo futhi labo thamisa amadoda ahlakaniphileyo ubaxothile wabeza ama-statues abantu abazimeleyo naphana abangelanto abazayithi ukwenzela ukuthi yena hlale lokhu efuna phana ekholisa yena yedwa isikwabo umuntu lo akulanto azasinceda njengabezimbabwe. eZimbabwe kakhohle ngeke vela ayibuse baba.
Sakuzwa kakhulu ke mnumzana khona ngapho ke eLubumbashi ungathi kusasa
Ngiyabonga Pete.
Ngibongile kakhulu. Yeah, so what Mr. Sbanjana is saying is that people in ZANU-PF don't respect members of the public. He actually mentioned that at one stage Mrs. Mjuru actually insulted the then Vice President Joshua Nkomo. It was on this issue concerning Econet. So he says, so she might find it very tough to get some votes from certain people. And then he further says that most probably, President Robert Mugabe actually deliberately split ZANU-PF because he has seen that there is nothing in terms of the opposition. So he did that so that he could play around with the succession issue. And then he further noted that Mr. Mnangagwa will never ever win a fair and free election in Zimbabwe, because he says he's linking him to the 5th Brigade atrocities. And then finally he says, 5th Brigade atrocities. So then finally he said Mr. Tsvangirai is sold out in terms of elections. So he believes that what he's doing is wrong and is a bit selfish. Then maybe in Tatelo Munyu Baba Lapa, Useziba, Ose Koli, Baba Seziba Kolangapo, Upilanjan.
Nyapila Baba Kunjan, we.
Nyapila Kulu, Use Soweto.
NgiseThekwini.
Oye phela nxa sikhuluma ngeSouth Africa uBlessing uyazi indawo yodwa uyazi iSoweto kuphela. Yeah, negoli, two things. So
hayi mina ngiseThekwini mfowethu.
Kunjani khona lapha eThekwini?
Hayi ku-right kuyabanda nje.
Ubone-ke mfowethu. Manje ungathini-ke ngodaba lolu namhlanje? Olokuqala unkosikazi uMjulu.
Unkosikazi uMjulu akazifomele yakhe iphathi kodwa uzolandelwa yilabo kade bebonke kuZANU-PF, hayi ukuthi uzothola abanye abantu angitsho. Bese ngisiza kulo mfowethu lo Ngwenya lo. Ngwenya akadli evala umlomo. Ayeke nje ukukhuluma kabi nabantu, akhulume kahle. Ugumbo oseloma imjuru lo owayengu-spokesperson we-ZANU-PF wayekhuluma njengaye uNgwenya lo, kodwa yamlahla izandla. Uyakhala uphandle kade naye lo Ngwenya bazomlahla abheke. Kumele asebenze esazi ukuthi yena udla isinkwa ngeZANU-PF. Ayeke ukuthuka abantu nje abangaphandle kweZANU-PF ngoba kusasa iZANU isimlahlile uzohamba ebantwini. Kumele asebenzise umqondo lo ndoda, angakhulumi ungani iZANU-PF uqala ngaye ukuba kuyo. Kade bebaningi bekuZANU-PF bechiya bephuma bexothwa, naye bazomkhafula futhi.
Yes,
ahlonipha abantu, azihloniphe naye kwenzela adle thule nje kuphela isinkwa sakhe asidlayo kuZANU. Angadli ethukana labantu ngoba umbuso kuthiwa ubukhosi ngamazolo kuyaphela. Yikho nguphosela bese ngisiza kuma-election okuthiwa azoba khona. Phela it's-useless ukuthi abantu batshona lokhu begijima lama-election. How many years lokhu kuvotwa abantu baziwinele kahle ama-election ngapha rigwe nje egcekeni? So yikudlala ngesikhathi lokhuya. Akuyenziwe into ezilemqondo ezikhanyayo, ama-registration lokhu zenini abe obala. Hayi ukuthi abantu bevotile bewinile uthathe 3 months 4 months kungakhitshwa lutho. So yikudlala ngesikhathi sabantu lokho. Abayeke nje bazihlalele nje abantu bangatshoni bezihluphayisa ngamakhanda. uNkulunkulu uzozangenela iGibhite, abantu babehlupheke eGibhite kodwa egcineni bagcina sebehleli bechaphile bahamba. Lapho sizochapha kuphela.
Kwezwala kakhulu-ke mnumzana Siziba, sibongile kakhulu baba.
Okay, ngiyabonga la mfowethu.
Ube lempila viki enhle baba. So according to Mr. Siziba, you know, Mrs. Mjuru can form a part of her choice, but getting followers would be a very, very big task, you know. And then he says, as for Mr. Ngwenya, who is our guest, you know, he says, whenever you are eating something, don't talk a lot, you know, because you end up losing that food in the process. So he says, you know, Mr. Rukari Kubo was exactly in the same position where Mr. Ngwenya is. So Mr. Ngwenya shouldn't talk a lot, you know. And then finally on elections, he says, elections is just a waste of time in him. So he says, you know, some votes are just coming from Norway. The voters registration is fake, you know, there's no transparency. And then finally said, God is for us all, you know. There's nothing that we can do. So I think we can go to Mr. Ngwenya.
Mr. Ngwenya. Mr. Ngwenya?
Hello.
Yes, the caller is saying, Mr. Ngwenya, just continue to chew silently without talking.
Well, that is the opinion, and I respect it as his opinion, but it is good to know that these debates are very useful because we tend to discuss these issues, and 1 or 2 points that are raised, it's up to the listener to pick them up, really, because he also said his opinion, and I'm also saying my opinion. Why doesn't he shut up about his opinion? My opinion is as good as his, so there's really nothing really to talk about. It's not only about ZANU-PF, even MDC had people that left that party. So these things happen in politics or in life anyway. You don't stop eating because one day you will die. But anyway, coming to the issue of boycotting elections, Well, I think one thing that Mr. Mangongera confirmed is that indeed, Mime Juru, they had organized people around when he said that those MPs aligned to Mime Juru could form an alliance in Parliament. Well, that confirms the whole issue. So when ZANU-PF is suspending or firing people, why then do they complain as if they don't know those facts? Yet they are also concerning those issues, really. So that is one thing that I think
Mr.
Mangongera.
Mr. Mangongera, I think he is an analyst the last time I checked. Mr. Mangongera.
Well, I mean, I'm just analyzing things from the perspective of a student of political science. My understanding of political parties is that factionalism or factions, or at least ambition, is a natural occurrence in any political party worth its salt. The question is, how do you deal with that ambition? Do you penalize and punish a thing happening in ZANU-PF, or you create mechanisms for packaging that ambition in positive energy that benefits the party? My sense is that political parties in Zimbabwe and in Africa at large have not matured to a point where they are able to deal with internal contradictions and internal challenges for the benefit of the party. We tend to adopt the zero-sum approach where we say it's either you are with me or you are gone. So you have to swear allegiance and loyalty to the leader. If you fail to do that, then you are chucked out of the party. And that's what we have seen across the political divide. If you look at ZANU-PF, the way Mime has been treated, which, as I said earlier on, many view it as unfair. It's to say, because you are viewed as not being loyal to the leader, then you have to be kicked out of the party. President Mugabe said this in one of his speeches, many speeches, around the time that they were talking about Mime Juru, that she was becoming too ambitious. A woman for that matter. That's the language that he used. A woman for that matter. And obviously that caused a lot of consternation, particularly in the women's movement. So, it just shows you the level of intolerance that we have for ambition. In other political parties across the world, ambition is cherished. It's actually encouraged. If you look at the Democrats, where you are in the U.S. and other parties as well in that country, where they have their conventions. They have young, upcoming, ambitious people who are given opportunities to present what they call the keynote address. Barack Obama got that opportunity, and lo and behold, young, energetic, and charming as he is, he has become a global icon. But in our case, when the young, ambitious, and energetic try to step forward, they are punished the way we have seen, happening with Mime Juru. And not just in ZANU-PF, but even in the opposition NDC, where some people have expressed dissent in terms of, questioning the leadership qualities of the leader or the founding leader. They have been chucked out of the party, some of them even violently. So that's the nature of political formations and political parties in Zimbabwe and in Africa in general. So I appreciate where my brother is coming from. But the truth of the matter is that if we are to mature, if we are to grow into a serious democracy, we ought to have mechanisms for dealing with internal contradictions and internal conflict. We need dispute resolution mechanisms within political parties, not summary dismissal of members of political parties. I don't think that bodes well for our democracy.
Thank you. Tinamkoma Samuel. Samuel on the line from South Africa. Good evening.
Good evening, blessing. Good evening, listeners.
Your take, Samuel, on the goings on in Zimbabwe's politics.
Okay. I disagree with Amam Juru going for election under ZANU-PF, whatever they call it, People First.
People First.
Front. I think we as Zimbabweans are tired with any propaganda of ZANU and but Amam Juru, I see the strongest woman in Zimbabwe, and I would urge you to join all these parties, form a coalition with the existing parties that are preaching the change to the people. And on the NDC's boycotting of elections, I don't think it's necessary at the moment because we've elected NDC for the past years, and the NDC, after electing them, they've allowed the president, Robert Mugabe, to change all the systems in Zimbabwe. So the NDC did not fight for any transformation. We've seen like all the municipalities, the major municipalities in Zimbabwe, Mugabe has changed all these positions of mayors into ceremonial positions. So it means that ceremonial mayors have got no any powers to govern the local governance. The local governance is now being heard by the people who are appointed by the president, not elected by the people. So I think the executive powers were supposed to be given to the people who were directly elected by people, like the mayors. The municipalities were supposed to be run by the mayors with the executive powers. The NDC are involved in these municipalities. They are doing nothing, fighting nothing for this transformation. So I don't think boycotting election is the solution here. They were supposed to fight for the rights of the people who voted for them.
Samuel, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Okay.
Where exactly are you in South Africa, Samuel?
I'm in Johannesburg.
In Johannesburg. No xenophobic attacks in Joburg?
Not yet.
Okay.
Just in KZN, just in complaints in KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay. Thank you so much, and stay safe.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Zimbabwe.
Good.
Yeah, we've got several messages on Facebook. Blessing. One is from Mutsairi, who says, I think in a free and fair election, Mai Mujuru will beat President Robert Mugabe by a big margin. She is the most popular figure in ZANU-PF. Then Fipion says, any party that will be formed by Mrs. Mujuru will be benefiting the MTC. ZANU-PF will get a very small support. Maybe he was trying to say some little support or something. Then we've got Absalom, who says President Robert Mugabe will never allow anyone to use the name ZANU-PF People First. And he put the last word, never. And then we've got another message from a person who says he's war vet. He just said, Viva Mokentswangrai. Then we've got Terubinga, who says, Mrs. Mjuru will not face Mr. Mugabe, but Mr. Mnangagwa and Mr. Tswangrai. And in 2018 presidential elections, she will beat both. And then lastly, I think we've got one from Sibangani Ngube, who says, it would be a good thing to have such a former high-profile figure from ZANU-PF. Then finally, Mr. Ngwenya, your last word.
Okay, the NDC should stop wasting people's time, and they should really focus on developing this country.
Mr. Ngwenya?
Hello?
Yeah, I think his phone is breaking.
Yeah, but how does the MDC do that? I think that's the role of the government, not the opposition, right?
Well, every citizen has the duty to build this country. Bring your ideas to the table and suggestions to the government instead of throwing spanners onto the way. Yes.
Mr. Wangongere.
Well, I am currently a disciple of, I can't call it a new movement, but at least new thinking in our discourse, which is talking about national convergence. And the idea is that we all ought to come together and as Zimbabweans and say to ourselves, what is wrong with our country? What is the national agenda? And how do we make sure that we all come together and push that national agenda without regard to narrow political interest? It's about saying, it's the unemployed woman who's vending on the streets. It's about the unemployed youth who can't find a job. It's about, the men and women who are struggling and need. How do we come together as a country and, define a national program that is going to give us the kind of Zimbabwe that we want? And I think that that's what we ought to be focusing on, including some of these political players who are saying, well, I want to contest this, I am the leader, I am this, I am that. I think that we all ought to come together and say, how do we make sure that we build the kind of Zimbabwe that we want to see? And that's the message that I have for Zimbabweans.
I think, and at least there is a convergence of ideas that there are more that unite Zimbabweans than divide them. Right, Gibbs?
Yeah, I think certainly, yes.
Unfortunately, time is not our best ally, and we have to end it here. And we want to take this opportunity to thank our guests this evening, Mr. Charles Mangongera and Mr. Morris Ngwenya, both political analysts. We also want to thank our listeners, our callers, those who sent messages on Facebook and on WhatsApp, and also our team behind the scenes, our engineers and producers. Signing off and saying, have a blessed weekend. This is yours truly, Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Gibbs Dube saying, good night, Zimbabwe.